GOKAI Red and Kamen Rider Decade, the protagonists from two shows that came out over a decade ago. It's something that can almost be considered a legacy matchup at this point. I get asked to cover this matchup a lot. It's a rivalry that's as iconic as it is obvious. So much so that Toei themselves even had to try their hand at it. But Superhero Tyson likely isn't canon to either respective series. And even if it were, the two were just faking being enemies the whole time to trick the actual villains into revealing their plan. Which leads to the long-awaited question. If the two were to fight, at full power, all in, no holds barred, GOKAI Red versus Kamen Rider Decade, who would win actually? In this hypothetical, both combatants will be given all Ranger keys, all Rider cards, and no plot limitations. Winner takes all. I'll start out with speed. Both are pretty consistently around the speed of light. GOKAI Red can match the G-Wogers as well as the Q-Rangers, with even low-tier members like Hammy being fast enough to dodge lasers from Deimos. Deimos himself can dodge attacks from Scheider's video beam gun. Video cameras work by reflecting light off of a surface, so even if you want to argue Deimos' lasers aren't explicitly light-based, chances are Scheider's would be. GOKAI Red also scales above the Kira Majors, who could intercept an attack from a camera monster after it was shot. The Ju-Woger villain Bangare can dodge beam attacks from the Whale Change Gun that travel from Earth to the Moon in 1 second. About 28% faster than the speed of light. The mid-tier Deca Ranger villain Genio has also said before he can outright move at the speed of light, to which Deca Break retorts that he's even faster than the speed of light. This makes sense too, given Genio's ability to enter reflective surfaces like mirrors. Decade, on the other hand, scales above most Another Riders, who are likely physically comparable to the originals, like X-Aid, Ghost, and Build, who can each match Ichigo and B3's lightspeed laser dodging, and Decade can also dodge photon-based projectiles from the Kaisa Blade Gun. I've said before that Decade's clock up lets him move at the speed of light, but if anything, this hardly scratches the surface. The original Super 1 is fast enough to dodge light-based lasers that bounce off mirrors from near point blank. But AR Super 1 gets completely speed blitzed by Decade's clock up. Plus, villains like the Sentai Megiddo are shown getting blitzed by Kabuto when he has no problem reacting to Psycho's lightspeed movement. Since Kabuto riders are described as having tachyon-powered attacks, tachyons being hypothetical faster-than-light particles, it makes sense for clock up to be faster than the speed of light. But just how much faster than light? Well, clock up is pretty frequently shown being speed-tied with Fai's axle form. Base form Faiz can react to and dodge his own photon-based projectiles, some of which are described as literal beams of light, and Axel is stated to be a 1,000 times multiplier. That's much higher than a 28% increase. And Decade is able to match the End, who can react to clock up in just his base form without needing to use it himself. If you want to argue feats from Superhero Tyson are still canon, however, then Marvelous could match clock up speed by becoming Red Buster, and even exceed it with Power Custom. But it turns out Marvelous actually doesn't even need to rely on feats like this in the first place. The Q-Rangers were able to beat Dawn Armage, whose attacks can spread across the entire galaxy in 1 second. That's almost 3 trillion times faster than the speed of light. Much faster if you want to translate Uchu as universe instead of galaxy. The Q-Rangers, without even transforming, are capable of piloting the Q-Voyagers across interstellar distances. Just to reach the closest star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri, In 1 hour, you would need to be moving at over 37,000 times the speed of light, and the Q Rangers usually have to travel much further than this. Marvelous, of course, is capable of similar speed feats with the GOKAI Galleon. So that's it then. Marvelous easily speed blitzes Tsukasa. I mean, sure, Forze could pilot the Go Buster O to Saturn and back, but he was only moving at 260 times the speed of light. Not even as fast as Axel Form. Plus, the Go Busters would also share this same feat. So, it's settled then. What possible feat of speed does Tsukasa have that could ever compare to traveling the width of the universe in 1 second? Well, what if he could travel through space in 0 seconds? Or better yet, -1 seconds. This is what is referred to as immeasurable speed, or as I like to call it, so fast it doesn't make sense. The speed formula is distance over time. If you travel an infinite distance over a finite amount of time, or a finite distance over an infinitesimal amount of time, then you would automatically be faster than any numerically measurable speed imaginable, even the greatest possible distance over the shortest possible period of time. When Decade beat another ZO2, he was fighting somebody capable of traveling backwards and forwards through time at will. Powered Custom might be faster than Clock Up, but Hyper Clock Up is so fast it lets you move backwards through time. So there you have it. Even if you wanted a highball Marvelous, there's still an argument for Tsukasa being faster. I guess using Kirin Ranger might even the playing field, if you want to include that for some reason. If you want to know my personal opinion, they should probably both average out to light speed since they can both still be tagged by light speed attacks. But ultimately, speed might not even matter once we get to their attack potency. In Super Sentai's strongest battle, Marvelous and the rest of the Oddball team fought against Ultimate Dai Satan, a monster intended to destroy all of space, which could easily make him multi-galaxy or universe level. Possibly even higher since Super Sentai has multiple alternate universes within it. This is the same level of power the Q Rangers needed to achieve in order to defeat Don Armage, who was hell-bent on destroying the entire galaxy or universe. And I don't mean this figuratively either, like through his conquest of alien civilizations. Just the amount of planetium on Earth was enough to blow up the entire universe all at once, and Don Armage was capable of absorbing all the planetium from across all of the life in the universe into his own body, then use that same pool of energy to battle the Q Rangers. Since GOKAI Red was blessed with the power of all Super Sentai, whatever sort of feat the Q Rangers had at their peak, he'd logically be able to match. And this logic isn't limited to the Q Rangers either. The Ju-Oger's source of power, the Link Cube, was able to merge the human universe and Ju-Land into one, possibly qualifying as a low multiversal feat, a level of power that isn't even uncommon for Sentai. The Shinkengers have fought villains with the power to flood the land of the living with an alternate plane of existence, the Sanzu River. Not to mention the Gowanger villains responsible for destroying multiple brain worlds, the Go-Go 5 villain Grandine who sought to destroy the entire universe with her minus energy, and the Abba Rangers Desmozoria who rode to Earth on a reality-warping asteroid with an impact so heavy it split the universe into 2 separate universes. Abare Max can seemingly create his own universes as well, complete with stars and galaxies, and that's not even considering whatever Super Abare Max can do. And even Sentai after Ryusoulger, Marvelous can still scale to. Marvelous once fought 2 Kaiser to a stalemate, albeit neither one was really going all out, but they should still be relatively equal in strength. I've talked before about how the multiverse-busting Saber Riders can scale to the Zenkaigers, But Superhero Senki is obviously non-canon, right? So logically the special episodes in which the Zenkaigers and Saber Riders teamed up can't be used, right? Well, in the Sabura and Durandal spin-off, Reika does mention how much her fiance's maid, played by Majine's voice actress, sounds exactly like her. Since they don't call Majine by name though, I guess we could just dismiss this as some silly, inconsequential meta-humor. But in actuality, the Zenkaigers are probably already stronger than Saber without even needing to rely on scaling. The monsters that the Zenkaigers fight, called worlds, aren't just named that way. The Tojiro gears they're powered by literally contain entire alternate universes within them. You know that whole merging of two universes thing that was really impressive when Storius did it? Every single one of the worlds is capable of effectively the same thing. At the end of the season, the leader Zenkaiser would go on to fight a guy literally just called God. The name isn't hyperbolic at all either. This is the same guy that created every single one of the parallel universes and is capable of destroying them. And even he said that a fight between him and Zenkaiser could last until the end of time. There's at least 54 parallel universes in Zenkaiger that we know of, in addition to many more we probably haven't seen yet. And Zenkaiser destroyed all of their gears at once, in one shot. The Cure Major's own weapons are considered a sufficient upgrade on top of the Zenkaiger's already absurd levels of power. Captain Marvelous has fought the Cure Majors before in a 3v1 without needing to transform, and even called them weak while fighting. Though they weren't really going all out against him, this is still insanely impressive, and wouldn't be the last time Marvelous defeated a Cure Major without needing to transform. Most of you are probably aware of Decade's title as the Destroyer of Worlds. World in this case meaning universe. Something that's been a facet of his character since his conception. In episode 1, he's said to cause the destruction of 9 universes, and in Zeo, another Decade did the same to 20 universes. Swartz was only using half of Decade's power, but even if we double this, we're still comparing 40 universes to over 54 universes. And GOKAI Red is comparable to the Zenkaigers without Gold Mode and without Galleon Armor Mode. It's not really clear to me how much stronger either one of GOKAI Red's final forms might make him. I could try speculating some potential numbers for him, but no matter what number I arrived at, chances are it would always be by a finite amount. Tsukasa is capable of destroying way more than 40 universes on his own. How many? All of them. Of which official episode descriptions state there are an infinite amount. Take for example, that time another Decade erased Build's powers from existence. Just within this one season, there is confirmed to be an infinite number of branching timelines. At least 2 that we know of, with Kamen Riders in them. Just for Swartz to destroy Build's powers alone, he'd already have to be capable of destroying infinite universes. Even God, arguably the most powerful Super Sentai character, didn't create an infinite number of universes. Sure, he could potentially keep creating and destroying as many as he wants for as long as he wants, but that's not the same thing as him creating an infinitely sized multiverse. Just the fact that he wanted the number of universes reduced down to a smaller finite amount is proof that he must have only created a finite number of universes to begin with. So there you have it. No matter how many universes GOKAI Red can destroy, Decade will always be stronger. No matter how many times faster than the speed of light he can move, Decade will always be faster. I could easily say case closed and end the video right here, but I want to do a service to all of you Captain Marvelous fanboys out there. Here's how GOKAI Red can still win! In the Decade movie, Double makes a brief cameo appearance. He then manages to hurt AR Shadow Moon better than Rising Ultimate Kuga and Decade combined could. I've been asked to cover this feat before, but like most fans, I usually just ignore it because it makes no sense. However, it is still irrefutably canon, so Tajidor is able to hurt Kamen Rider Core better than Double Extreme could, and guess who has the Tajidor Ranger Key? By this logic, GOKAI read as Tajidor would finally be stronger. If not for the fact that Decade 21 has all their powers too. That's Ultimate Kuga, Double Extreme, and Putatira. Although I guess he doesn't have Tajidor visible anywhere on his body. The version that appears in the last episode is stronger than Putatira also, so assuming that's what Marvelous is turning into, then sure. I guess it's still possible that Tajidor could still be stronger. There you go, Sentai fans. Under this one extremely specific set of circumstances following this, let's just call it questionable logic, your character could still win. Another aspect of Decade 21 I want to talk about is how absurdly smart he must be. He's got 02's brain power and Double Extreme's Gaia library, so basically he's as smart as the world's greatest supercomputer with access to all the knowledge on Earth, including stuff that hasn't even happened yet. Oh yeah, and Bill Genius also boosts his thought processing too, so he'd be so smart he could literally see the future. I don't think Captain Marvelous has anything that could really compare to that. Not that I know of. This one actually ended up being much closer than I initially expected, though it's almost universally agreed upon by most fans that Decade wins. It was still fun looking into all the potential reasons why. I have a lot more future videos planned, so stay tuned.